Alright, sup y'all? Today I'm going to be doing my second deep dive on Suno with some more experiments that I've been working on and want to share with all of you. So let's get into it. These are the 5 kind of parts I'm going to be talking about in the video. I'll be talking about coming up with like a chorus melody for inspiration for the audio. We'll talk about this new feature that Suno added called Find Inspo because you might see it on there and I just want to give my thoughts on it. I'm going to double tap into more of why we should write full lyrics for these songs. And then definitely the main course of this video is going to be talking a lot about meta tags and what they are, how to use them, and then finally just a little bit of dessert with, some stem extraction stuff you can do post generation. So first thing we're talking about is the chorus melody. So this is probably more of an opinionated take on it. I don't think there's really a right way to do this. This is just something that I prefer. So when I'm coming up with a song idea, I like to think of the chorus first. So like writing out the chorus and then coming up with a melody in my head that I think would be fun to sing along to. Because in my mind, I see the chorus as the part that people usually sing along to. It's the most memorable part. And it's the part of the song that generally has a good chunk of the core message in the song. And so once I have the chorus, it's usually easier for my brain to then fill in the gaps for the other verses to make it a coherent song where the subject matter is not all over the place and it's all built around like this main theme. So you'll see that I usually have that here. I'll just show you again what it will usually look like. I upload an audio of me singing something, so just playing it for you really quick. It's not the best quality of audio, but this is what we're working with.
You left me walking the wrong way home, forced to call a ride even though I'm broke. Shame on me for letting go, trusting someone I didn't know.
Okay, so we have that. And that's kind of like the part that was it was a melody that was kind of stuck in my head. I was like, da 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 da. And then I just made some lyrics loosely based on like some experience that I could relate it back to. Um, and with that being said, we can quickly touch on this Find Inspo feature that Suno added. So you'll see here in the Create tab this Inspo button. And when you click on it, you'll see it says pick a playlist of your own song to inspire your next creation. And for me, I thought this was a cool concept. I can see where they're going with it, but there's just a couple like reasons why I'm not yet convinced to use it for my own purposes. One is I already have all of these other inputs I can give it. So I'm already testing, the weirdness, the style influence, the audio influence. I don't want to be throwing another, you know, metaphorical seasoning in the soup right now. Um, and the second reason is because when I generate outputs using Inspo, at least for me, I couldn't find a place to see if Inspo was actually used in that generated output, which I don't like because for me, I always want to know what the inputs were so I know how I can replicate it or what I can try to tweak if I want something different in the output. So for example, like if I look at this, um, let's see, I might have to move this over just so you can see, uh, just so you can see this, um, right here. When you see this, you have all the lyrics, you have the style description, and you also have the control settings. But when I generate with an inspiration used as well, I didn't see a place to see what was used for inspiration. And I don't like that because then I don't know if the inspiration caused it or if it was one of these control settings that caused it. And so that is why I would say, to be honest, it's not really worth it if you're trying to be, you know, more experimental and testing different inputs. But if you're just trying to crack open a glass of wine and let the muses take you away, it could be fun. I think I'd have to be in a different mood to use it, but just right now it's not really worth it to me. Now, that being said, let's get on to the third portion of the video, which is writing lyrics. And I talk about this in my first video, but I just wanted to double click on some concepts where I felt like I could explain myself better. Again, just to reiterate, when you're writing the lyrics, the chorus should be the same as the audio that you're using. That helps the model know like how to sing it, because if it's sung in a certain way in the original audio and then it sees those same lyrics in the lyric text, it is more likely that it's going to sing it the same way that you had imagined in your head. And now to explain a bit more why I think writing full lyrics is beneficial. So you see these squiggly lines, and let's say this is the instrumental. This is an instrumental piece of music, and this is a piece of music by Suno with lyrics. I don't know if this is an actual term, but I call them vocal pockets. And by this I mean when the vocals are being sung in a Suno song, the music or the instrumentation around the vocals tend to sort of mold and shape around the space where the vocals will come through. And so when you extract the stems later and you take off the top line vocals, you just have a backing track with these natural pockets for you to sing into in whatever way you want. It can be the same way that the vocals sung them in the Suno song, or in a different way that you find is easier for you to sing. Like, there's some songs that Suno will make, and I hear it sing something, and I'm like, I don't think I have the range for that, or I'm just not that technically skilled as a singer to make that sound good. But I know I can sing it this way, and it fits within this vocal pocket space. So let me do that instead. That is kind of why I prefer writing lyrics. It just kind of makes the process more seamless for me. With an instrumental, you can do pretty much just like freestyling, mumbling some verses over parts that you feel like work for you. And I do this too, but this is just more so why I think writing full lyrics can be beneficial from the beginning. So, just to reiterate, writing full lyrics helps you make what I call vocal pockets in the mix of the song. So then when you extract the vocal top line from the stems later and you remove it, and all you have left is the backing track with all the other instrumentation, you have natural pockets for your own voice to come through, is kind of the best way I can describe it. And I hope that is helpful for anybody out there that is more focused on how they can use Suno to build it around their own voice, because that's kind of the way that I've been using it. And now on to the meta tags. I believe meta tags have been around for a few versions of the model. And to just give you a brief introduction, you see these larger bolded words in brackets. These are kind of what I'd call the base elements of vocal tags or meta tags in Suno to help the model sort of identify the structure of the song. So you have intro, you have verse, you have chorus, bridge, outro, and it's not actually FX. It's usually just what you want it to be. So like a bird chirping or car driving, just one of those weird effects you might hear, like a field recording, to just add some more texture to the song. And there's definitely benefits to using them in general, so the model knows how to structure the song. Like if you want to do verse, verse, bridge, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus, verse, outro, the instrumentation will be made to sort of fit that song structure. So for example, if you have a bridge part in the song, Suno might generate a different melody for a guitar than it had for most of the other parts of the song, just to match the structure of the song and that part being a bridge. And now if you get into the details here, you'll see I also have some examples where you can have what I call just annotations on the meta tags. So for example, and I'm going to be showing some examples here in a minute, but just to go over it here first, let's say there's a verse where you want the drums to enter on. And so the first verse, you don't want any drums playing, and then the second verse, you want drums playing. That is where you would say something like verse, then drums enter. So you can still put the lyrics the way you want them to, and then you simply just have to denote that you want drums to enter here, and then in the song you'll hear what should be drums entering on the second verse. Or for the chorus, say you want power chords or backing vocals, like you have this really cool chorus idea and you feel like it would sound better with backing vocals, You just have to say, I want backing vocals inside of the brackets. And that is another thing. Make sure that all of your annotations are inside of the brackets. Now, before we go through just some examples, or I kind of show a real world example, a few notes on this. One is the meta tags can still be hit or miss, especially with annotations. So just because you say you want something here, like I want drums to enter on the second verse, the model might ignore it and just have the drums start in from the beginning. Which kind of leads me to my second point, which is the more complex, the more unpredictable your outputs can be. So I know this because I've written annotations that are probably 4 sentences long of something very specific that I wanted, and I've found that it doesn't really help to do that. The model just kind of gets confused, and it might actually just make the output quality worse overall when you do that. Which leads me to my third point, which is use them when you really want something in the song. And for me, again, I kind of think of songs generated by Suno in the form of shapes, not really the specifics of the instrumentation, but more so, oh, on the third verse, I want the drums and the bass to enter, or on this chorus, I want there to be this sort of drum pattern or some sort of rhythmic pattern on the drums. And that is like just something you sort of have to figure out for yourself. So I would start with just the base tags for lyrics, like not annotating any of them, see what Suno gives you, hear what you kind of feel like could be better or what you had maybe imagined would be in a certain segment of the song, and then just annotate it. Like maybe you generate it and you're like, I thought backing vocals would have sounded better on the chorus. Let me try adding backing vocals to the annotation and regenerate and see what happens. And only make that change. Don't make other changes to literally anything. Just that change to see how it affects the output. And then you can tweak and adjust as you keep going. But I would only adjust one input at a time. That goes for the lyrics, that goes for the style, that goes for all the different dials you can turn. I would just start with one input at a time. And the final note, I will say, Suno's latest model 4.5 Plus was recently announced, and so I spent quite a few hours testing it and stress testing the meta tags on it. And I will say, from my limited experience, because it's only been a day or two since they released it, that it does tend to adhere more to the meta tags than 4.5 will. So if you are a paying subscriber and you're interested in trying different meta tags, try switching on 4.5 plus. It definitely will increase the chances that the outputs will be what you want it to be. So with that being said, let me just show you what I mean in a few examples. And so you see here I have a set of lyrics that I wrote, and they're annotated with the meta tags and some extra information about what I kind of want to hear in the song. So let's look at this first example. On the second verse, I want the snares and bass to enter, and I only wanted the kick on the first verse. And like I said, it's hit or miss, but it does work sometimes. And again, I want to stress that it's not going to be 100% accurate, and it's not going to be like this isn't going to save you. Like, I really want this, and I'm going to get it on the first try. I would not expect that, to be honest. But I just want to show you an example of where this did work so you can get a sense of what I mean. So right here, okay, it's not, exactly what I had written on the lyrics. I might have tweaked this a bit inside the editor, but on the first verse, we have guitar strums, the kick starting, and no other percussion. And then on the second verse, snares and the bass enter. So if we give this a listen, you will kind of hear what I'm talking about. When you hear the vocals say, turns out that you lied, but it's okay, I don't blame, you should hear some extra snare elements come in with a bass.
You were the first to make me open up. and make me feel like I ever was enough. Turns out that you lied, but it's okay, I don't blame. I'm used to it by now. I'm better with the pain.
Okay, so and you can listen back to that just to double check. But when the first verse started, I kind of only heard a kick element. I didn't hear any snare type elements necessarily. And then on the second verse, it wasn't exactly a snare, and I think this had to do with the actual style description where I wanted the instrumentation, let's see, loose live percussion, brush snare, soft congas or tambourine. So it kind of sounds like a conga or it's just like it's not like the canonical snare that I would have thought of, and it's not necessarily in the pattern that I would have expected either. But again, from my perspective, I think of the song as like a shape. So on the first verse, there's no snare elements. On the second verse, there are snare elements. And I asked myself, does it carry the song in a similar enough way that I had imagined in my head? Like, okay, this kind of picks up the pace a little bit, keeps things moving, it's a bit more dynamic, and to me, it does. So I was like, yep, this is perfect. And so that is an example of using the meta tags to sort of be more specific on the verses. And now, going back, I will show you the second example. This one was kind of a tricky one. I spent quite a bit of time trying to get this one right and wasted way more credits than I needed to. But essentially, what I was going for in this is when this started, I wanted just more gravitas when the chorus started, and just I've heard songs like this before where there's just like these banging kicks underneath the vocals with little to no other instrumentation. And I don't know, I just kind of like that. So I'm going to show you an example of what I mean here in this example I commented here. So I'm just going to start this song a little bit further in so we can hear what that sounds like leading up to the chorus.
But it's okay. Turns out that you lied, but it's okay, I don't blame. I'm used to it by now, I'm better with the pain. Ever since you left me walking the wrong way home, forced to call a ride even though I'm broke. Shame on me for letting know, for trusting someone I didn't know. You left me walking the wrong way home, forced to call a ride even though I'm broke.
So if you listen to that, you can kind of hear like on this first take of the chorus, we have that sort of underneath the vocals. And then I had added here the full band enters on the first line, which does add kind of a cool effect on the second one. You heard kind of like some backing vocals come in, and then like the rest of the band comes in. And again, this was not a like 100% guaranteed output by any means. This was probably after, if I count, I'm a little embarrassed to count, but probably like 15 generations, which is in total 30 outputs. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this. But hey, this is just kind of part of the process, and I'm just sharing with you what I'm learning about it as I go. So now the next part I want to talk about here kind of jumps or piggybacks off of the fact that they are hit or miss, but when you do get something you like, here's how you can get the most bang for your buck. It's like when it's actually what you kind of asked for, what are you going to do? You're going to take that original output and you're going to make covers of that output. And I'll show you what I mean in this playlist I have here with a few examples where I covered that song I just showed you that still sort of has that same kind of kick element at the chorus the way that I had imagined it, or close enough. So if we look at this one, and I'm just going to move this over so you can just make sure you can see, this is a cover of that original song that I just played right here. So if I back it up a bit and we play it, you should hear sort of a similar kind of, again, the shape of the song in the abstract, not the same instrumentation. It's not exactly the same, but in the abstract, it feels like it's moving the song in the same way that I had wanted it to.
Turns out that you lied, but it's okay, I don't blame. I'm used to it by now, I'm better with the pain. Ever since you left me walking the wrong way home, forced to call a ride even though I'm broke. Shame on myself for letting go, for trusting someone I didn't know. You left me walking the wrong way home, forced to call a ride even though I'm broke.
And so as you can see, I used a cover of the original output that had the same sort of kick pattern I wanted. And now I kind of have a base asset that I can use to generate more outputs of that similar shape of the song. And I think that is probably it on meta tags. The last thing I do want to mention is this is just something that I kind of found worked. When I had my original audio and I was making these generations, I didn't have anything here for the chorus, but then I added sung with melody from audio. And this did seem to make the output more predictable in the sense that the chorus was sung in sort of the same way that I had sung it originally in my audio that I use as reference. So that's the last thing I want to say is it could be worth doing this if you're making a song and you have some sort of melody that you sang with the lyrics of the chorus, but it's not really coming out the same way when you're generating outputs. You could try annotating with sung with melody from audio, and that seems to help it a little bit. Okay, and so now we're on to the last part. This is going to be very brief, but this is just something I forgot to talk about in the last video, and I wanted to talk about it here. So when you get all the stems from Suno and you put it in Ableton, if you're like me, maybe you can't, like, I can't really tell you what key something is in by listening to it. So I'm just going to go and find a software to do that. And the software that I like doing is actually this other company called Kits AI. They are another AI creator tooling platform, but we're not interested in any of this stuff. We're interested in the stem splitter. So if I take a song that I generated with Suno and I plop it in this stem splitter for Kits AI, which you can find, it's tucked in the Tools tab, and I split the stems, literally the only thing I'm interested in using this for is just to find the key. And that is just simply for me to know, like, if I put this in Ableton later and I want to add other instruments around it or anything like that, it just lets me know what key it's in. And it's also helpful for, figuring out what key you want to be singing in. But usually, I don't know, like you can kind of tell just by ear how to sing along with the sound. You don't need to know exactly what key. So it's mainly for if you have other instruments that you plan on adding later, you just know what key it's in. And one final tool that I have been kind of playing around with, have yet to really experiment with it more, but is Fader. And they also let you extract stems. And shout out to uh, Frankie77 for putting me on a Fader. I did not know about it, so thank you for letting me know. But also something really cool about this is you can also get them in different keys. So maybe you want the stems in a different key, it will do that for you. So that is pretty much the video. Again, just big picture takeaways. Some of the things that I think have helped me when I'm trying to make something with Suno is to think of songs as shapes, not the specifics. So like the way it carries. So when do the drums enter? Are there backing vocals on the chorus? Is there like a certain pattern that you want to hear? Not exactly the specific instrument that you want to hear or the specific note that you want to hear, but just the overall shape and how does it really make you feel? And is it kind of the feeling that you were going for when you started making the song? The second thing I'm going to harp on is writing your own lyrics. I think it's just a good practice for if you want to be creative, you should put in as much original creativity as you can with something that does kind of do a good amount of the heavy lifting for you. And I also think that you can bring your own perspective and put that into your lyrics in a way that the AI can't, because yes, AI's like ChatGPT is trained on all this stuff, yada yada yada, but you are the only person that's had your own life experiences and can introspect at a level that maybe an AI was not able to know, because who's going to know your subjective experience more than you? Um, that's a very scary question, though. I'm very scared if AI can do that. But that's pretty much the video. If you liked it, drop a comment. If you have questions or concerns, also drop those in the comments too, because I am, again, like this is new technology. Definitely, there are some big conversations that I think are happening right now around music and AI, and it's important to approach this with a lot of like humility and respect for everybody's perspective on this, because we're all coming from different places. But if you have any of those thoughts, please drop them in the comments. I take all that feedback in just for my own personal learning and understanding of where everything is going. And consider subscribing. I'm going to be dropping more videos like this. But yeah, other than that, thank you for watching if you got this far, and much love and peace, y'all.